not in the next module, in this module. This will be the final piece of the video tutorial. In the next part of the module, we're going to be examining 3 new statements that can be used to return particular data sets. The first is going to be the insert statement, which, as the name would imply, is used when new data is going to be included in a particular table. This can be done with a single row or with multiple rows in a table, essentially. The next statement is the update statement, which essentially takes existing data in a table and replaces it with new data or new column values, right? So the example given, the set statement is written. So with this set statement now this will only modify the business entity IT of 289 with the following parameters: the bonus being changed to 6,000, the commission percentage being changed to 10%, and finally the sales quota being changed to null. So update can be used to replace existing fields or column values in a particular table. And if this where clause wasn't included, this essentially would replace every single row with the given parameters in the set statement. So the where clause is essential to narrowing down that modification of the table. The final statement that we're going to be looking at is the delete statement, which is pretty much self-explanatory. And you can actually, again, similar to how the set statement can be combined with the where clause, the delete statement can also be combined with a where clause to specify the deletion of one particular row or field rather within a row. And if the where clause is not included, all rows will be deleted from the table. So it's imperative that when necessitated, the where clause is included with delete and with other types of statements, as we saw in previous examples, including with the select statement. We're now going to execute a couple of practical demonstrations of these statements. The first of which is going to be a query for the insert statement. So here we have some scripts prepared for the video example. So we're first going to retrieve all of the data from the production.unit measure table. So we will copy that script here. Include it below. So this will pull the entire and display the entire table, essentially. There we have the entire table. Okay. Now we can we can add the insert statement to insert new data into the table. So we're going to insert these particular values in the table. Okay. A new row, essentially. So we'll execute that statement. One row is affected. So when we highlight this again and execute the table after insertion, we'll see a row containing these fields. Right here. And that get date is retrieving the modified date column, essentially. That's what that does. That's how that's behaving. And there it is, row number 17. Next, we're going to insert multiple rows. of square foot, square miles, and square yards. And then we'll see how the table is affected. So we'll highlight this, execute. We'll go back to the example. There needs to be a semicolon there instead of a comma. So actually this will be FT2, pardon me. We'll highlight that in FT2 on 2. So let's look at the table again. And then we'll try to do insert. And duplicate key is M2. So I'll actually just go ahead and delete that one. So those 2 rows were affected. Now that when we view the table, once again, we're going to find FT2 with the square foot parameter and then Y2 with the square yards parameter. So then next we can just delete, or rather not delete, but update a row. So we're essentially going to change the name of the data square foot to square feet within the F2 row. So the script is written here. We'll paste it below. So we'll look for this. This is F2. This word foot is expected to be changed to feet. That's what we're executing here. Execute. Affected. So now we will view the table again. Now we can see that F2, the name, under the name column, it was changed to square feet. So that was the update was performed successfully. So what it did is it replaced the data, the field, from square foot to square feet. That's what the execution did. Finally, we can remove a particular row from a table. This time it will be the FT row. So this row, number 17, won't, in our re-execution of the query, we won't expect this row to be deleted from the table or removed. So we will execute and then view. Now, you can see row 17 was replaced or moved up to include FT2. There's no more FT table. One less row in the table after using the remove statement, or the delete statement rather. To conclude our module, we'll be performing what's called a DML trigger which essentially, well, before we do the trigger, before we perform the trigger, there's something called server indices, okay, which allow for the sped up retrieval of data, um, which will be covered in another module. But for the end of this module, we'll be concluding with the DML trigger statement, and it allows for there to be the display of a message to a user when data is added or changed within a particular table. So the way that looks, it looks like this. Okay, so we'll be using this trigger statement right now. Start with the example of the trigger statement, the creation of which. So we'll add it here down below. Okay, so we will highlight that and execute. And this was done successfully on the production.unit measure table. So on particular rows, this message will be displayed to the user, unit measure successfully added. Next, we will, so it's instead of the insert, we'll actually use the update statement. Execute that. That doesn't, so we'll keep it to insert. Okay. So that was already performed. And then the next one is we're actually going to provide the updated row using the update statement for this trigger. So instead of changing it to square foot or feet, it would be displayed as square footage. So we'll include that below here. Highlight and execute, and one row is affected. So now when we view the table again, we'll be able to see that FT2 has the word square footage written under the name column. And there would be a message that displays that says unit measure successfully added on rows 16 and 10. I wonder if I execute again. There's already that object there. So if we actually maybe remove this, see if I can. So this would be the insert success. But this would be for the deletion of not the row, not trigger. So when we view the table again, they would be displayed here, the message, the trigger, which is the trigger. And that concludes module number 4. As an addendum to this module, I'll actually attempt to perform the update function for the trigger statement once again by first going to my table view here, and under the production.unit measure table, I'll actually, this insert success trigger, I'll actually just go ahead and delete it, okay, because we're going to recreate it essentially. And then from there, I'm going to, so according to the tutorial, they had the the after insert or after update statement included. So from there, we're going to change this to update here. First, we'll display the table. So we'll go back here, execute that. And then from there, we will then create our trigger, recreate the trigger a second time. So that was done successfully. Now from there, we can update this field in the FT2 row from square feet to square footage. We'll go ahead and execute that. So this was this unit measure and square footage. One row is affected from there. So let's look at the table now. So then from there, we see that square feet was indeed changed to square footage under the name column. So it appears that the trigger wasn't created yet. So we will try again with updates. Let's see what happens. So they're actually insert success was created. Seeing if there's a refresh. Let's refresh it. There it is right here. So here we have the insert success object here, with the script written as raise error, and then the rows that are affected here. And if we jump back to our other query file, we can see if we change, let's see if we change this back to insert, see what happens. Rather, if we just update the row first. Maybe we would have to first interesting. Let's try it one more time. So let's run this with insert, this trigger. That was completed successfully. Now let's just display. Okay, well, let's execute this change, this update. One row is affected. Now let's see if we can get that trigger to appear in our table. Now, we can see it's still there upon refresh the trigger. Execute it again as already. So that's essentially what you would have to do to insert a trigger using the insert statement. And that concludes the module.